So I was also wondering, do we need another auto layout tutorial? The sad answer is yes, because no one has told you that you don't need 100% of auto layout. In fact, 99% of your work can be done by 50 to 40% of all the auto layout knowledge that exists. But as creators, as Figma officials, they will always try to teach you everything about auto layout. But the truth is, you don't need to learn everything as a starter. You need to learn the 40-50% of auto layout that you would be using in 99% of your work. Unless you are a design system manager, design system builder, you won't need to learn everything, right? So what I'll do is I'll actually simplify auto layout to an extent you would see and you would say that damn, auto layout is actually easy and everybody else is just complicating it. So when I say it is easy, all I want you to do is be able to create this auto layout, this particular transaction list element, such that you become super confident in auto layout. Okay. And again, when I'm saying this component, it might look very easy, very simple, and very straightforward, but it is actually not. For example, this particular title, right? If I add more text to it, you would see it gets truncated here, right? And if I reduce the size, then it gets reduced, right? So this is one thing to note. The other thing is it is not crossing this particular line. In fact, the width of this box is determined by what goes into it here, right? You see the width has changed to this much. If I reduce it, you see the width is pretty much increasing because I'm reducing this. The reason is I would never want to have my numbers going into second line, right? So I would always want that this guy decides the width of this guy, right? So that logic exists here. You saw the truncated behavior as well. Let me add more into it. So you can see this has truncated here if I add more text, right? Then you have your subtitle standard, then subtitle 2 standard. Then we have a few tags. Okay. So if I add more tags, see what happens. It goes to the next line. So first of all, it added to its side, and then as I added more tag, it went to the second line. Another thing to note in tag, let me see if I have it here, is to an extent it takes your texts, right? And beyond a point, it gets truncated, which means, let's say I want the tags to be of a certain length, and beyond that I'll just show dot dot dot, right? So that also can be done here. Again, you have your icon and your this text in auto layout. Another important thing is, if I, let's say here I'm using an icon, but let's say I want to reuse this list item and have say image here, and say this one is the image. Look what happens once I replace it, right? This gets shortened, right? And this, let's say I want this behavior of to exist, right? Let's say this is how I want this card to look like. Okay. This is a part of a course I forgot to tell you, everyone who is new to this. So this is a Figma course. First chapter we learned about how to create on Figma. So the fundamental questions like why Figma rules, what are the constraints of a free Figma versus paid Figma, and Figma AI, and so on. Then we learned about file structuring. There was a task. I think for every section we had a task. So if you completed those, then great. Otherwise, if you're new to Figma, then please go ahead and complete the task. Then we learned about the UI of Figma. We learned about navigation, how to navigate inside Figma. We learned about all these different tools that a professional in the industry uses, and this was like a 2 hour Figma video. So if you haven't checked that, please check that. We have gone in depth into certain concepts as well, so please check that. There was a nice task as well. I think there were two tasks. One, though, I had only completed it on the video, but you could have also seen this other task that I didn't complete, but I gave you a hint about how to do it. So that was done. So we learned how to create. Now we are learning how to create faster. In future, we will learn how to create even faster and consistently. And then we will learn how to add life to the creations, and then we will learn how to communicate your creation with other stakeholders like your developers, like your product managers, to your directors, and so on. All right. So coming back to auto layout, right? What we'll do is we'll go through few things. First of all, what are the three simple types of auto layouts? Then we'll learn about nested auto layouts. Then we'll learn about alignments, individual padding, auto width, text boxes, and blah blah. So many other things, right? Again, you might see this list and get overwhelmed, but truth is, it is actually not that difficult. In fact, a lot of this concept we had actually covered in navigation and in other videos as well. The reason is auto layout is not just limited to, let's say this is auto layout, right? It's not just limited to this part of the Figma panel, right? Auto layout, what you want to achieve at the end of this, creating a layout which is automatically increasing, decreasing its size and following a certain logic and rule, is not limited to only this particular panel which is auto layout. There are other places also where certain logic, at least now they have done it well. Now they have brought in this width and uh, height from the top position to now here. So now what they have tried to do is bring all this auto layout controls together, mm, with this UI 3 that we are seeing here. If you are from your UI 2 days, then you need to appreciate this part what Figma has done with bringing all of this thing in. But the truth is that in general, auto layout does not mean that you just need to learn only this part, right? There is things with text truncation, there is thing with positional alignment and so on that we need to also cover. In fact, we had covered all of them in a previous chapter, but here also I'll again revise it because a lot of people would be watching the auto layout tutorial only and not the previous ones. And I don't want you to go through like 3 hours of video to just find these bits. All right. So let's go ahead and learn these things one by one. First of all, what are the three simple types of auto layout? You can see here vertical layout, then your horizontal layout, and then your wrap. Okay. The simple thing is, let's say this is something that you have created. Now vertical layout means if I select them, press shift A, or basically this apparently is the new auto layout icon. I don't know what made them think that this is auto layout, but yeah, whatever. So you press shift A. Most of the designers create auto layout like this. So you click this and press shift A. Auto layout is created. Now if I select this and press Ctrl C and Ctrl V, if I duplicate, you see that it is doing two things. It is maintaining the same distance from the top, and it is stacking in a vertical manner, right? Why is it doing so? The reason is this distance is 20. That is what it is maintaining here, right? If I bring my cursor here, you can see what it is highlighting, right? In pink, it is highlighting the distance. And then because this guy is selected, it is vertically stacked. If I make it horizontally stacked, I think the problem is this width was you know uh, given a particular fixed width. Ideally it should be hug content, and this width, let's change. Okay, and let me, yep, see, this is what horizontal auto layout is. Okay, which is the same stacking is happening, but is happening horizontally, and the distance, same 20 pixel distance is getting maintained, right? So this is your horizontal, this is your, that was your vertical. All right, this was your vertical. All right, Now next is the wrap feature. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take these two elements, put them into auto layout, then we'll say wrap. Okay, in wrap generally what happens is you define the width. Okay, maximum this much width I want to take, and it will go in horizontal fashion, and if it hits that width, maximum width, then stack it vertically. So it is like this. If I keep on adding, okay, let me increase it. So if I keep on adding, it will increase in a horizontal manner, and as it hits the endpoint, now see what happens when I add more. It adds to the bottom here, right? So in wrap, you will get two dimensions, basically two distance between items. One is your horizontal distance, then one is a vertical distance. So, sorry, this one is what? I think this one is your. Oh, I think at this point, it is taking both as 100. Can you see this is taken both as 100, but I want to change this as well. I want to make it 10, right? So I can do that as well. You got the understanding, right? So this is your wrap, vertical stack, and let's make it horizontal stack, right? So horizontal, vertical, and your wrap. In general, we don't use wrap a lot, but the places where it will be more useful is in websites, right? For example, in websites you have these cards, for example, or let's say you have your company logos listed like this: 1 2 3 4 5, right? And tomorrow, let's say somebody comes up and says, I want to add more to it, and let's say you want it to come somewhere here like this. Okay, uh, how can we achieve that? Most likely you'll have to use you know a wrap, and then here we'll learn about it, all about alignments, but here we'll do something like a center aligned, right? And then we'll make this, let's say 24, make this 72. All right, and let's say we add one more, what do you call it, icon or a company name, right? Okay, what we have not done here is we have not made it fixed width. Let's say this is the maximum width, or maybe lesser than that. Okay, so maybe this is the width we want for our websites. Different combination of icon, logos, and whatnot is there, right? So this is how you can use your wrap tool in such use cases. In apps also you can use, but you understand where it is getting used, right? But most likely you will not be using wrap a lot. What you would be using more often is your vertical stacking. This will be the most used, and next comes your horizontal stacking, right? So these are the three simple types of wrapping. Okay, what's next? Next is nested wrapping. Nested basically means like this is also, sorry, not nested wrapping, man, I'm shooting it at what, 12 a.m. at night, so I'm getting all this jumbled up words. But this is a auto layout, and this auto layout is inside this bigger auto layout, and then this entire card is also a auto layout, and this entire card is inside a list which is a auto layout. So all of this concept is called nested auto layout, right? So basically it's the concept of having elements inside another element, and that element is inside another element, and finally the element that exists is your broader screen, right? So a good example is here itself, and I'll just show you how we did this tag. It's very simple. Okay, let's say this is your icon, and then this is your text. Let's change it to 24 cross 20. I think thanks to constraint it became 24 cross 24. What we'll do is we'll add it to auto layout. This needs to be centered, right? You see what we are doing here, by the way? If you make it bottom, then this guy actually is now aligned at the bottom. If we make it centered, it is equidistance from top and bottom because it is centered. And if we make it top aligned, it goes top aligned. We'll make it centered because that's how we feel we need this element to be. Okay. We want the distance between this and this to be, let's say, 12. So we will write it like this, BCD, whatever. Right. So this becomes our tag 1. Now what we need to do is add padding from top and bottom. All right. Or let me first give a background to it. Let me give a background color to it. Let's say this gray. Okay. Now what we want is we want some padding from the top and bottom. Sorry, top and bottom and sidewise. Okay, so what we'll do is give sidewise, say 16. Maybe not 16, 12, and top and bottom, let's say 8. Okay. And let's say we want to add a bit of roundedness. 4 seems fine. So then this becomes a tag, right? I can keep on writing as much as I want. Now, what I can also do is I can say, see, beyond, I don't want this text box to be like super lengthy. Like beyond a point, whatever tag comes in, just truncate it, right? Let's say this width right now, what is the width? 35, right? I'm saying that beyond 100 width, don't take more characters, right? Ideally it should be character based, but I don't think we have that feature right now. Character based means beyond, say, 280 characters, or I think 280 is too much. Beyond 60 characters, don't show more characters. But again, the problem with that sometimes is different characters might have different width. In fact, most of the time different characters have different width. For example, your one takes lesser width than your w is probably the fatter one among all other characters. So I can have probably 4w in this space and look at ones. Okay, one is not as wide, right? So anyway, what we'll do is we'll say this particular text box should not be, say, 100 pixel wide. Okay. If it does, then truncate the text. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll add a max width. Okay. And we'll say this is 100 and we'll keep it here. So it shows that, okay, it will go till here. Okay. So every time I go ahead and type more text, what it is doing here is it is taking me to the next line. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll go to text. See, we'll go to typography. Now suddenly what we want to achieve is not there in auto layout, right? It is not there in this area. We have to go to another area, which is typography. This is what I was saying a few moments back. You have to go here and you have to say truncate, and I want to say truncate in one line. Like max number of lines is 1, so this is how it will behave. Okay, so which means this, so far it is not truncating, but, and what is the width here? What is the width here? 86, 94, 100, right? Truncation started because it has gone beyond 100, right? It will never go above 100, right? We have given that max width here, remember? So that's how you can create this particular tag element. Okay, and I am hoping that you have understood how to create this one as well, which is if I type in more here, it gets truncated after second line. How did we do that? Same idea. Go to typography, truncation, but here instead of one line we are doing two lines, right? We can also do three lines. See what does it do. If it is three lines, right, then truncation will start after the third line, right? So anyway, we'll go back and say it as two line, and yeah. So that's the idea about how to create this tag. Got a bit derailed, but yeah. Next we can learn about alignments. I think we have already covered a bit about alignment, but let me share a little more. So let's say this is one element, this is another element, okay, and these are in auto layout. This is currently in auto layout, which is vertically stacked, right? If you want, if you're building, let's say, a centrally aligned, layout, then you can have the alignment at top, center, or middle, or wherever. That's not a problem here. But it is basically centered here, right? But if you want everything to be right aligned and they will grow from right to left, then you go for this, right? Now any new item that you will create will go like this. If it was center aligned, right, any new item I'll create here will basically be center aligned, right? But here if I increase the width, is increasing like this, right? See what will happen if I center it. This is how it will be centered, right? So again, this is basically about your different alignments. We have already talked about this part as well, right? Similarly, like if I similarly it can be so that I think we have already covered it here, right? I think that alignment we have already discussed here, which is your top, middle, and bottom. All right. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground already. We talked about alignment. Let's talk about individual padding. Yeah, I forgot to talk about that. I think I should have covered that in tag itself. But anyway, so let's say we have this tag. Okay. Now, for some reason, let's say I want to increase the bottom part only and everything else can remain the same, which is um, you see the padding. This is 6, this is 4. I want this particular padding to be more. Okay, I can drag it like this, or I can just click this, right? Now I can individually adjust the padding. So I can make this as 12 and that should be good as well, right? So you can handle individual padding as well, not a big feature, but you should know that this kind of thing exists, right? Next is text boxes and auto layout. I think we have already discussed about this one. But another thing to note is when you create a, my bad, when you create a text box like this, which is fixed width, okay, and you add stuff like this, when you add another item to it, let's say this, and the text box needs to be auto layout, right? So what will happen again in auto layout, if I select it and move it, then it moves like this, right? What will happen is this guy's width and height are going to remain constant. So it is almost like going to behave like a rectangle, right? It is going to not increase or decrease or adapt its length and width, right? So that is one thing to note. But if we make it this guy, right, which is auto height, then its height is going to adapt, right? So as I type, then it is going to increase the height, right? So that is important. If I make it this guy, which is auto width, what will happen? Its height will never change, right? So in general, again, pro tip, you would find yourself using auto height most of the time in design, especially when you're dealing with auto layout, right? So this is also something that needs to be noted. Okay, so that's, and we talked about truncation and whatnot, right? So we also talked about maximum width and so on, so that is also covered. Truncation is covered. Fill and hug, we have already used it, or I might have showcased it here and there or in my previous chapters, but let me again recall uh, your knowledge or whatever you have learned so far, right? So if I have a frame like this, okay, this is a simple frame, this is not an auto layout, and I have an element like this, okay, I can give its width as fixed width, right? Whatever number I want to add, I can have it here, right? I don't get any options of any different logic to adding any width. Let's see how auto layout changes certain items, right? For example, let's say I have these two items and I add them into a auto layout, right? And let's add some padding, 24, 24. Well, let me give it a background. Let's say this. All right. Now, let's say this guy, okay, how do you want this guy's dimension to change, right? So right now it says hug. What does hug means? It means that it tries to be as close to the element, like that's what hug is, right? When you hug somebody, you basically take the shape of that person, right? That's how you need to see it. Hug here basically means it's like a blanket that is trying to like grab this element, right? So from every side, right, it is trying to just grab whatever is inside them. It's like this blanket, right? And if I add more items inside it, right, it still wants to just grab them, right? But you are also adding those logic saying that hey, it needs to keep on increasing like this. So it is trying to just grab them, and then you have defined ki, okay, the padding is going to be this much. So it is just trying to grab them and then maintain that padding distance as much as possible, right? But you can also say that I don't want it to be, hug. I want it to be, fixed width. Okay. And you can say whatever, like 300 fixed width. Okay. Suddenly this item is outside, right? This item is now outside of this, auto layout. It is still inside the frame because when I'm moving the frame, it is going outside. But, everything else, I mean, sorry, not everything else, but this guy is actually outside the frame because we have made it fixed width. Okay. Now, what we can do is we can go ahead and turn on clipping mask, or sorry, rather clip content. Again, 12 am problems. So clip content, and you won't see that part, although that exists inside the auto layout or inside the frame, but it does not come up. We have covered that in our previous chapter, but yeah, something to note. So what we saw is fixed width is not the default here. In fact, it is usually not something that we would be using. Rather, we would be using maximum width and things like that. But yeah, hug is the default for auto layouts. But there can be use cases where we would want certain items to have hug, certain items to have another thing which is called fill, which does not show up here, but I'll tell you where it is, say, important. Okay. Say I have a canvas like this or a frame like this, and I have this element. Okay. Say the frame is this big. Okay. You can also say that this auto layout is auto in nature. Okay. What does that mean? What does auto mean here? Auto means that this guys width you can keep on adjusting, and whatever is there inside, the padding is going to be dynamic. What we had all previously said was padding is fixed. This is actually fixed padding 23, or make it 24 to make it sound better. So here the padding, exact, again, sorry, not padding, but the distance between items, right? The spacing is basically 24. But as I make it, and let me just do this also, 24, and I move this, nothing changes, right? But if I make it auto width, sorry, yeah, auto spaced, right? What I'll do is, as I move, these items are going to take automatic padding, right? So this can be very useful. Now at this point you might be like, okay, there are so many concepts, how do I get my head wrapped around it? As you practice, you will get your hang of it, right? But the idea here is, whenever you want something to expand, okay, and let's say you pretty much know how much the width is going to be, or you want this guy to follow the width of its parents, right? Then you go ahead and do something like this. I'll show you some example, um, you know here as well, and you will be very clear. I know it might be sounding confusing, but give me 2-3 minutes, we'll get to that point, and you will understand this fully. But what I was showing here was, as you change it, this width is changing automatically. Okay, this is one thing. Now here what I can also do is, I can select it and say fill container. Okay, you see what it is doing here? Let me change the color as well. So when it is fill container, what it'll try to do is, instead of having a width which is fixed, what it will try to do is, it will try to just expand itself as much as possible. So hug was like, it will try to hold something as much as possible. Then your fill is basically like, I'll just take up as much space as possible. I'm like water, I'll just try to expand and reach every corner of this room, right? Whereas the other one was blanket, it was trying to just hold everything together, right? So usually fill is something that you will find for elements that is inside another element, and its relationship is from the child to the mother, right? So the child inside the mother is trying to expand as much as possible with fill, and with hug, it is the mother who is trying to hug and trying to basically enclose it as much as possible, right? Again, I'm pretty sure you are a bit confused, but as we try to do some actual examples, this is why this file is done in this way. As you understand this particular example, you will pretty much get clarity of everything. This all confusing stuff is only to give you an introduction. Now let's get into real action. Okay, so before we try doing auto layouts, one thing that you need to understand is, there can be multiple right answers to how to really lay it out. Okay, but there can also be many wrong ways of doing it. Okay, for example, this guy, this outer auto layout is what is horizontally placed, right? So this guy is there, this guy is there, this guy is there. Now you could have said, why didn't you do it this way, which is this, arre, arre, arre. This guy, this guy, and this guy. Why didn't you take these three items and made a horizontal auto layout, right? And then you stack other things below it, right? Why didn't you do it this way? Again, strategically, it was hard for us to scale, right? Because the way you have to think about this is, you have an extreme left item followed by a right item, and then again that's also left. So this is a left item, this is a left item, and this is a right item, right? So that's how I am seeing it, or I am visualizing it, right? And then when this guy's height increases or decreases, I want everything else to be affected by it, right? So hence my way of doing it is, and when I, by the way, when I say everything, I say it's not this guy or this guy, it has to be these people, right? So that is why the first thing that you need to do is, just if you are not very clear, just think about from a macro perspective, like from a bird's eye view, what are the elements or what are the columns that I need, right, for these kind of stuff, right? Like for example, in which direction is it actually going to increase, right? So whether you want to have rows that will increase in this direction like this, or do you want to have columns that will generally increase in this direction, right? Where, in which direction is this element going to increase, right? That's what will define a lot of how this is going to be structured. So this is something that you need to be aware of. So that's one thing. uh, so once you are clear that this has to be a 3 column thing, now let's understand what is the constraint that we want to work around with. My constraint here is that I would never want this guy to be something like this. Like, this is not acceptable. I want my numbers to be always in one line. Okay. If we take that as like the rule, then the question is, okay, if this is always going to take the maximum width as much as possible, then what will happen to every other content, right? So my idea is every other content can compress itself except for this guy. Like this guy, if it exists, then it should have the same dimension, right? So then the question is, okay, what you are saying is this guy will increase its size, this guy is going to remain fixed, the size is going to remain fixed. Now this guy needs to adapt, right? So now when you think about it, you would think like, okay, what do we do about it, right? Like how do we structure it? So the way to structure it is, this is going to be fixed, doesn't matter, so it's like fixed width, fixed width. This guy is going to be hug, because what, this element, as I increase the text box width by adding characters to it, it is going to increase, and I want somebody to hug it from every side, right? So that it takes the shape of that text box, right? So this needs to be hug, and this, what is there left out, needs to be filled, because when I say filled, it will try to just expand as much as possible, right? And it will then adapt. uh, I think you're not probably getting it, but let me show you. Okay. If I change the width here, you see what is happening. This guy, because it is filled and just wants to expand as much as possible, it is expanding, right? Can you see it is expanding? So your basic concepts are clear. Now putting it into auto layout is like simple stuff, right? So what is clear is we need to have one element here, this text needs to be somewhere here, and there needs to be another text. Okay, this is this simple starting point, right? Next is you want this guy to have what, its own column, this guy needs to have its own column, this guy needs to have its own column, right? Actually, if I add it here and here, it would make this guy's column, right? So let me add it here, let's make it 2. Let's say this is what we have, 1 2 3. Okay, now further I can actually make these two auto layout as well, right? Which is, if tomorrow I don't want to have this guy, right, I want this to be like taking as much space as possible. talking about as much space as possible, let me actually show you what I want to achieve. Okay, if I do a auto layout now, okay, and change the height and width, nobody is like reacting to it, right? So first of all, we need to make sure that these guys are reacting to it, right? For example, this guy is this guy, this entire thing needs to be what, needs to expand, right, and fill up as much space as possible. So I'll make it fill container. All right, now let's see what is happening as I am moving it forward. Yes, this guy is like, outer shell is moving forward, but these guys are not moving forward. I want that to happen. How will I do it? I'll select this, I'll make this also fill container, right? Now everything is moving. This is already filled, so good. If this was not filled, I'll make it filled now. This also is filling, good. This is filling, good. So now we have the desired behavior, at least for this guy. Now let's see if I am changing the width here, what is happening. Yep, this guy is width is dynamically changing, so good. This is what we want to have. Now this item also we want to have. How do we do that? See, simple thing is, you can take it outside, put this guy inside here, put it into auto layout, control C, and then paste to replace. You can do it this way also. Okay, but if you are not doing it this way, the other simple method is, you know, you just control C, control V. Okay, another item is created, but this is getting inside this element. Like, we don't want 4 columns. We select these two, make it auto layout, make it vertically stacked. Let's say this is what, 2, there is distance 2. This guy is what, green in color. Okay, and it's a small in size, and it needs to be right aligned, but the text box, inside text box, it is right aligned, but this text box itself also needs to be right aligned to this one. So we will right align it. Where do we right align? We can actually make it fill as well, but that is not so necessary, but you can do it this way also. Or the other way around would have been that I select this entire thing and make it right align. This can also work, but the better way to do it, like I said, there are no one right answer, there are multiple right answers. Sometimes there are just better answers also. For this use case, I think fill would be a better use case. This guy needs to be hug, right? Only because this guy is the child. This guy defines the law for everybody else to work with, right? And this guy is fixed. This guy is like more neutral guy, and this guy is like more relaxed. It's like, okay, I want to just take up as much space as possible. So when this guy width changes, then this is what is happening. But when I made it fill, I realized that this is actually problematic if this is a small number, say 10.0. So this should not be fill, this should be hug, right? Again, as we create, as we test, again, whatever you build as auto layout, always test it with data, with like small data, big data, medium sized data. So are you getting the, desired look when you have like a standard optimum text lengths for your different fields, right? That's one thing that you need to test. Next thing you need to test is with small values whether things look okay, and then next thing is with bigger values what is happening, right? That is also something that you need to always test your auto layouts with. Okay, especially these kind of auto layout that needs to be used in like multiple places, and you don't know how much the text is going to be. The text can be dynamic, this can be like multiple paragraphs as well. So how do you deal with it? So what you have understood is this guy needs to be hugged, this guy needs to be hugged, and this entire thing is also needs to be hugged, right? So that what it means is it always will try to get the width of its children, right? That's what hug is here. This is just trying to take as much space as possible, as much as remaining space as possible. So that's how it is. Next thing is, are we happy with this distance of 8? Like, I'm okay with it, but yeah, if you are not, then you need to work around with it as well. Next is, what about this part, right? So let me add this line. So you might be thinking, okay, where do we add this line, right? We want this line to be following this guy's width, right? Or whatever the width of this part is. So where do we add the line? We should be adding it inside this auto layout, right? But you see what happened here? I added the line, but the line is 2 away, right? Question is, can I actually individually change the spacing between them? Because I want it to be 16, but it is taking 2 because the rest other are just 2, right? And I want that rule to be applied to these 3 elements. So how do I make it 16 away? I take it outside actually. All right. So if you want it to be 16 and things like that, first of all, add it to this auto layout. I know it's going to sound a bit complicated, but bear with me. Okay. So how I want is this layout, Control C, Control V, and this I just want another item to be here somewhere, right? Did you get what I did there? Let me repeat. Okay. So in my head, I'll tell you what I'm imagining. Okay. I'm imagining this is here, this guy is here, and then this guy is here. Okay. This guy has its own spacing system, 2 2 2, but now another guy needs to come in. How do I know that this is another guy and not part of this guy? Is because this another guy has different spacing requirements, right? So hence it needs to be part of another auto layout. Okay. So we need another guy here, which will have a different spacing. So while elements inside it might follow 2 2 2, right? While in element inside it might follow 2 2 2, I want this other guy, like say this is the guy. Okay. I want this other guy to be another auto layout, and then whatever the next guy comes, that also follows the same thing, right? So then how do we do that? We need to have, sorry, here we need to have another auto layout at this level. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting it, Control C, Control V. What it is creating is it is thinking that it needs to be part on the side, on the sideways. What it is thinking, it is just adding it to the same parent auto layout. But what I'll do is I'll select both of them, create a auto layout and bring them down, so that I got the desired outcome. I created this basically here, right? You understood what happened here? Initially this existed. Okay. I created this guy. What it did was, because ours is this sideways auto layout, no? So it created another guy here like this. Now you must be wondering, why did it change the size of this guy to small one and this guy to be something like this? Why did it not create like another item? Say question is basically, when you created this guy, Why did it not create something like this? Okay. Why did it actually squeeze them like this? Reason is, what is this? This is fixed width. So this guy's width is not changing. Okay. This guy is saying, I'll remain this to whatever inside, whatever drama you want to do. I'll remain like this. Okay. If this was hug, then it will expand like that. It will say, okay, new parent, this is your size. You don't have to do anything. I'll expand for you. Like I am the mother, right? So if I do hug, let me show you. If I do hug, sorry, hug is already applied here, right? If I do hug and duplicate this, Control C, Control V. Oh, interesting. Because this guy is fill, not this guy. Control C, Control V. Okay, this guy is fixed width. My bad. This guy is fixed width. I was thinking that this guy's parent is this ultimate, this guy. But actually, but the logic is same. Okay, the learning is same. The learning is this, if this was not fixed width and hug, and this is also hug, then what will happen is Control C, Control V, this will expand. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there are complexities. Okay, it's not like it's super easy, but if you're able to create this and you know the reason why certain stuff were done, right, that is the exact reason why I am showing you all of this breakdown, because you don't have to watch any other YouTube video after this, right? So I hope you got the idea, right? So we'll go back and we'll say this guy needs to be fill width and this guy is fine. This guy needs to be fill width as well. I'll remove this one. Is it fill container? This is also, this is fine. We'll make it hug. No, we'll make it fixed because we want to basically play around with this. Okay. This is fill. This is fill, and now we are good. Okay, cool. So we were here. Okay, before we went on into all of this territory, we were here. Okay, what we wanted to do, we wanted to create this, which will be 16 centimeter away, or 16 pixel away. What we will do, we'll say Control C, Control V, select these two, and create an auto layout and make it vertical. Okay, what did we do? From here, we first created this guy. In order to create this, we first just replicated it. We brought it here. Okay, then we said no, we want this to be a auto layout in which this guy will not be on the sides, it will be here, and everything will expand till here. Okay, so we achieved that here. We made them into auto layout, we brought them under each other. Now what can we do? We can say this is 16. Okay, did you get it? That now this is 16, inside that everything is 222, so we are here. Okay, take this line. Let me just add a background. Why haven't I added a background for so long? And let me just give a padding like 16, and what is this, 16? Okay, now it looks sane at least. And now we will take this line, Control C, I'll add them here. Okay, now we don't want it to work like this, like randomly sticking out of its zone. So we'll hold this, make it fill container, so it will just expand till the container and take it up, and we have achieved this. Okay, so line we have achieved. Okay, all this dotted and stuff you can also do later. But now next thing is we want tags here. Okay, what is the behavior of tag? As I add more tags, if it was vertical, then more tags will you know add up like this or come up in this manner. If this was horizontal, more tags will go in this manner. Okay, but how I want it to work is the tag needs to be inside this one box, and that box needs to adapt to the width that this guy gets, right, or this column gets. Okay, so for that, like I've shown before, we would need what? Wrap. Okay, for situation like this. So let's say this is the tag that we have. We want tags to be like this till a point, and then if it wants to take more, like more than this space, then it should go to the next line and continue as much as possible. Okay, so in that case, what we'll do is this: select them, auto layout. Let's say 8 is fine with us. Okay, we'll make it what? Wrap. Okay, then we will add it here, not here. Control C, we'll add it here at this level. Okay, this we will remove, this we don't need. So here it is still wrapped, but the width of this container is not right. It is taking hug. Hug means the more I add, it will just keep on increasing. We don't need hug here. We either need fixed width, or better is fill container. In fact, fill container is what we, oh my bad, I was selecting the wrong thing. I was selecting the tag itself. The tags box or the tags container needs to be fill container, right? You got the idea? So now if I keep on adding, it will expand like this. Okay, this is the desired behavior. So we saw that it can keep on expanding. Let's say you want to create this rule that this stacking cannot go beyond a certain height. Okay, let's say beyond these two lines you don't want stacking to be there. Okay, so what do you do there? You define maximum height. Okay, and let's say the height is, this guy is what, 24, distance between them is 8, this is another 24, 24, 24, 48, 56. So you don't want it to be beyond say 56, 58, whatever, right? So what you do is you define maximum height as 56 or 60, let's say 60. Okay, did we define maximum height as 60? 60, enter. Okay, and then here, okay, everything needs to be starting from top, right? You got the idea that this is where this needs to be there. Then we'll do clipping mask. Okay, now even if you add more items, it will not show up, right? So this is again very edge case. You would not need to use it most of the time, but yeah, just told you where you can use auto height as well. We have already seen where to use auto width, right? So this element is now created. What you can do is now take this, paste it here, or I'll just do this. Okay, we'll finish the video in a few minutes, but yeah, it's pasted here, align to the right. Perfect. You see how these items actually came up when I actually, gave it some width. All right. Then I'll create another one here, put them into auto layout. Then I'll do 0. Where's the distance? 0. They're not together. I'll give this guy a bottom line, maybe. Where's the stroke? Yep. Stroke, bottom stroke, 10%. And yep. Let's make them actually nicer. All right. So now you can keep on adding item like this. And if you want to increase, you see this thing broke. That broke because this guy is not scaled, I guess. You see, this is mixed mix. This needs to be scale, so that this vector is now scaled. The vector's container is at scale, so that when I change it, it actually scales. So what is happening when I'm scaling? It is doing the desired behavior, right? All right. So your task, you saw so much of content today, right? What you need to do is just do this one task. Okay, if you're able to do this task, then you're done with auto layout. Okay, no need to worry how to create auto layout and so on. Of course, you need to keep practicing wherever there is a chance to create auto layout, do that. But please use the next 1 hour, because if you have watched the video so far, means you're high on energy and you are just learned something. It's now time to practice it as fast as possible, right? So go ahead, and in the description I'll give you the link to this particular element. Actually, in that link you will get pretty much all this resources that is available. So it will be a Figma file. Duplicate it and start working on it. Try to create this element only. Okay, that is it, only this element. If you are able to create it, you will be able to create pretty much all of stuff that needs to be created for a beginner, right? So I'll just, for a bonus, right, I'll just create one more item, which is, sometimes what happens is you have this element here, right, which is, you have a text. Okay, and then this text, then this text, and then there is this line separator, and user can select pretty much any of these tabs, right? And then this item comes up. Okay, I want that this item needs to basically adapt its width based on whatever text is here, right? And then all of this needs to basically be like this. Okay, now this is also a bonus task for you. I know if you are able to create this, you would be able to create this as well. But if you can create this, then please share the link of this task as well. I'll give a shout out to next time whenever I'm creating a video or when I'm going live. So please, if you are doing this task, then try to do this task also. And as an outcome, what you'll achieve is a feeling of knowing enough auto layout, and you'll never feel afraid of auto layout once you are able to do this, right? So use the link in the description and create all of this, right? I'll provide all the resources. I'll provide this. If you get stuck, you can always see what I have done and try to replicate it, but most important thing is understand why I have done it this way, right? So that's all about auto layout in this video, but we are not done here. I wanted to share one more message, that we have learned how to create things faster. Next thing is, how do we create things even faster and more consistently? But one thing that I wanted to also do is, I want to create other videos as well. I'm getting stuck with creating this series, which are like very very long videos, so it takes a lot for me to really do a bunch of preparation. For example, just to come up with the idea of this one element took me some time, right? So a lot of energy is going into this particular content, while I want to create some fresh ideas, content on fresh ideas. So I would like to ideally slow this part down, but if there is a demand, then I'll speed it up. For example, if you guys tell me that no, no, please create what you are creating, please go ahead and create this design system content or prototyping content or communication part, then I'll prioritize them and I'll create content out of it. Otherwise, I'll try to create some other content that interests me right now. Okay, so I'll share a link to the Google form and tell me what content you want from me, and I'll try to do that. If it is from this section that is in front of you, then also it is fine. If it is any other topic, then also let me know. So please use all those links. Please do the uh, exercise and share the link with me as well in the comments or in our community, in our WhatsApp community. Again, link will be in the description. So let me know. Thank you so much for watching it for this long. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Oh yeah, and like, share and subscribe.